Welcome to this explainer. Let's just jump right in. Today, we're diving deep into Chapter 3 to completely demystify exactly how your computer stores and processes information. If you've ever wondered what's actually happening under the hood when you hit save or when you launch a massive video game, well, you're in the right place. So let's get into it. Here's our quick roadmap for today. 1. Meet your computer's memory. 2. Primary versus secondary memory. 3. RAM, your active workspace. 4. ROM and cache explained. 5. Secondary memory, permanent storage. And 6. We'll finish up with a chapter review knowledge check. Section 1. Meet your computer's memory. At its core, computer memory is simply the storage space inside your machine. But it's not just a junk drawer for random files. It's specifically designed to store the exact data and instructions that your computer absolutely needs to function. Literally, without this space, your processor wouldn't have a clue what to do, and your files would have nowhere to live. Section 2. Primary versus secondary memory. To really grasp this, think of primary memory like a fast-paced workspace right on top of your desk. It's incredibly quick to reach, but it's temporary and kind of limited on space. On the flip side, you have secondary memory. This is your permanent storage vault. It operates a bit slower, sure, but it's built to hold massive, bulk amounts of data indefinitely. There's a distinct physical and functional difference between the two. You have these sleek, internal RAM chips acting as the heart of primary memory, rapidly juggling all your current active tasks. And then, completely separate, you have much larger external hard drives acting as secondary memory, just sitting there ready to store your files permanently and safely. Section 3. RAM, your active workspace. So RAM is the main internal memory for the CPU. It's highly dynamic, featuring both read and write capabilities, which means the computer can constantly update whatever it's working on. But here is the absolute most important takeaway. RAM is highly volatile. If there's a sudden power cut or the second you switch the machine off, all the data held in RAM is completely erased. Poof, gone. It only exists while the machine is actively working. To put this into perspective, think about when you're playing a visually intense video game or editing a heavy video file. The software actively pulls the game's instructions or your temporary video data and throws it right into the RAM. This gives your computer the ability to access that data instantly, which means smooth gameplay and seamless editing with zero lag. Section 4. RAM and Cache explained. Now, ROM stands for read-only memory, and unlike RAM, data here can only be read. You literally cannot write over it. Why? Well, because ROM holds the absolutely critical instructions required just to start your computer up. When you press that power button, a program in the ROM called the BIOS wakes up and it loads your operating system from your secondary storage right into your primary RAM so the computer can actually boot. Then we have cache memory, which is super fascinating. Cache acts as this high-speed, temporary shortcut. It sits there holding a specialized copy of the exact data and instructions that your processor accesses the most. By keeping this stuff in the cache, the processor doesn't have to waste valuable time trekking all the way back to the slower main memory. It's a total game changer for efficiency. Section 5. Secondary memory, permanent storage. Secondary memory, which you'll also hear called auxiliary or external memory, is the vault. Information stored here is permanent unless you intentionally go in and delete it. It's built for bulk amounts of data. Now, the trade-off for this massive permanent capacity is speed. It's definitely slower than primary memory. And here's an interesting quirk. Unlike primary memory, data here is actually not stored in a uniform manner. Let's visualize how this workflow actually plays out. When you're typing up a document, you're working actively in RAM, but the exact moment you click Save, that file gets transferred out of the temporary RAM and is physically written into your secondary memory, like a hard drive or an SSD. That document is now locked in safe and sound, meaning you can shut the whole computer down, go to sleep, and it'll be right there tomorrow. Section 6. Chapter Review Knowledge Check. Let's see what you've picked out. Let's start with a really crucial concept we covered about primary memory. Ask yourself, what happens to the data stored in the RAM when the computer is turned off? Take a quick second to lock in your answer. If you said it gets completely wiped out, hit the nail on the head. Because RAM is volatile memory. As soon as the machine is switched off or loses power, all that temporary data is instantly erased. Okay, let's try a fill-in-the-blank question pulled right from the chapter activities. A computer cannot run without a blank memory. Any guesses on the missing word? The answer is primary memory. Remember, a computer literally cannot function without it. It desperately needs the ROM just to load the operating system in the first place, and it needs the RAM as an active workspace for the processor to do, well, anything at all. All right, here's a great comparison question for you, checking your knowledge on the trade-offs between the two categories. Which type of memory is slower, primary or secondary? Secondary memory is slower. It intentionally trades that lightning-fast, immediate processing speed for the incredibly valuable ability to permanently store huge bulk amounts of data over time. To bring this whole thing together, here's the complete hierarchy of the computer memory ecosystem. At the top, computer memory splits into primary and secondary. Under primary, we've got our active internal tools, RAM and ROM. Under secondary, we've got our permanent bulk storage options, things like hard disks, SSDs, DVDs, and USB drives. They all play a highly specific, vital role in making your machine tick. And that wraps up our thorough exploration of Chapter 3. So now that you truly understand the distinct roles of primary and secondary memory, how RAM dictates your active speed, and how your hard drive dictates your permanent storage capacity, how is this knowledge going to change the way you read the specs next time you buy or build a computer? It kind of changes the whole shebang, right? Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and keep learning.